I think we've got about 10 more minutes in this segment. So I do want to take, while we can't confirm yet exactly what's happening, I did see the paperwork that says that the emergency stay has been denied. So that means they're going to move forward at some point in time. We just don't know when.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's take us back a little bit through the case, because I think that's where your expertise comes in that not everybody else has. You spent so much time covering
right,
this case.
and of course, as you could imagine, people were horrified by this crime. It was an unbelievably awful crime, especially when it came out that the mother, who was not involved with anything as far as anyone knew, was not dead when she was thrown, the first one thrown in there, then the other two bodies on top of her. So, as I've said, it's diabolical. And then you've got more than 30 years a person on death row. And obviously, he had to be moved from Brushy Mountain because Brushy Mountain closed. And it's just been a case that's been ongoing. Tony Carruthers has actually kept it somewhat in the news with all of his court filings.
And so, take me through some of the court filings that he sent you over the years, some of the things that he sent you over the years. Like, can you elaborate a little bit on what some of those things were that he would send you?
As far as the exact contents, no, I don't even remember them, but they were thick. Well, and I don't even know if I would remember them the next day. There were so many, but it would be like this thick, and he mailed it to the newsroom, and it would come, and it would be something else from Tony Carruthers, and he must have sent me 20 or more mailings about things that he's filing to show, in his opinion, that he was not there and that he did not commit the crime. Something else that's interesting is that one of his co-defendants, Montgomery, he got out in 2015.
Yeah, I meant to ask you about that. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because we mentioned it, we reported that earlier this morning without any context of what happened.
Well, he had said that he didn't want to be tried with Tony Carruthers. He wanted his own separate trial. And that didn't happen. He was tried with Tony Carruthers, and Tony Carruthers and Montgomery filed some documents, and they said you should have been separated. That was prejudicial. I may not be using the exact legal terms. And so he got out, and the prosecutors apparently decided not to retry him.
So we heard he got out in 2015.
2015, and he was, as far as the investigator said, just as culpable as Tony Carruthers. So he got out on a technicality, and Tony Carruthers did not.
Yeah, and so that we mentioned that earlier, but didn't really give the context of the technicality, just that he had gotten out, his sentence had gotten changed, and he'd gotten out in 2015. But that is interesting and very important to note that it was a technicality and what that technicality was for people at home. So in all your years of covering this, and all your years of covering these types of cases, how strange does today feel?
I don't even know if I have a word for what has happened. Because if you think about it, you say, I'm the state, I'm going to execute you. And you put someone in there who's supposed to do the things you do to execute someone with lethal injection, and you can't pull it off?
Yeah.
I mean, it's astonishing and astounding and so ham-handed that I think there are going to be repercussions nationally because of how this has gone down.
Yeah. The real question that we don't have the answer to, that we're all looking for, is what happens next? You know, because the motions have all been denied at this point, but today was obviously a botched execution attempt.
Well, and I know people say, well, look what he's accused of. Look what he was convicted of. That's atrocious. There's no doubt.
Correct. And
they may want a type of revenge. But the way the death penalty works in the U.S., this is 30 years ago.
Yes.
It's expensive. It costs taxpayers a lot of money. You get attorneys that are paid for by taxpayers. You get to file a lot of court documents. All of that's expensive. And juries now do not like the death penalty. Many years ago, you could get out. If you got life, you got out. Now you get life without parole.
Yes.
So the person's not going to go out into the community and do anything.
In theory, you don't have to apply the death penalty because you can give life without parole.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an awful lot just about the death penalty. It is very controversial.
So let me kind of bring this back with the very latest information that's been happening. This breaking news that we've been covering. Tony Carruthers was scheduled to be executed at 10 o'clock this morning. That did not happen. We did not get word of anything happening for at least an hour. So around 11 o'clock or a little bit after, we got word that his case had been pushed to the Supreme Court, but then denied to be heard. So then they were moving forward with his execution around 11:30ish, somewhere in that time frame. Then we got word shortly after that they were having trouble applying the needle to Tony Carruthers during the execution, and that because of that, Tony Carruthers' attorneys were seeking an emergency stay of execution. Then, as we were coming out here to prepare to do this show, we did get word that the judge has denied. So the emergency motion of stay has now been denied. In that motion, his attorney said there were several attempts to obtain access to his veins that were unsuccessful, and that the physician was not qualified. Now, these are his attorney's words. It was denied since to receive a stay of execution because of the court finding no merits or likelihood of success to prove innocence. So basically, the court is saying, even with the botched execution attempt, we don't see any evidence of innocence enough to stay this execution.
Well, and if his attorneys are saying, and I'm sure they are, that the physician was not qualified, it stands to reason that if the physician couldn't find a vein, he or she was not qualified.
We are, and if that's the case, then that's going to be a whole nother.
So do they have to get another physician?
I mean, we don't know. That's the question.
We don't know, but this is astonishing.
This might be unprecedented. So what we are hearing right now, breaking news, is that Governor Bill Lee has now halted the execution as of right now. So again, breaking news we are just hearing right now. We are getting it confirmed that Governor Bill Lee has in fact halted the execution. I have the paperwork right in front of me, so please just bear with me. Say that one more time to me, Michaela. So the governor, even though the motion was denied to stay the execution, the governor overrode that motion and has halted the execution at this point in time.
The governor knows how it looks.
Yes, so that's for you and I on this side of the table, we understand that that's what that looks like. What that comes across as is the governor is saying we didn't get this done effectively. Stop.
Right.
We got to take another look at this. And so I don't know how long. Sometimes when you halt an execution, it could be for a week.
This is a huge mess for the governor. A huge mess. Executions, the death penalty, it's very controversial. The state of Tennessee could not even pull it off. And so what do you say as the governor? I mean, think about it. If you're just put yourself in that position, it is a very, very bad look.
So when you're right at this point, there is a PR element to this, correct?
I mean, sadly, yes.
There is a PR element to this that we all have to acknowledge is taking place at this point. But there's also a person's life.
There's the family of the victims.
Okay, so tell me that one more time.
What?
So we are saying that the governor has not confirmed this?
Oh.
We have not confirmed in its entirety that the governor has halted this execution. Is that correct? I want to make sure we're getting things 100% correct. There's so much in this breaking news element, as you well know, so much information coming in and going out. There has been conversation, let's put it that way, that the governor has stepped in. I guess we were waiting to get full confirmation from the governor's office or a statement from the governor himself to say that.
Well, you have the questions that we don't know the answers to, but it's like, okay, if this person couldn't find the vein, do they need to find another person?
Yes.
Do they get to just keep trying on all the veins that he has?
At some point, it does become cruel and unusual, right?
Cruel and unusual, and a logistics headache. Sorry to say that because we're dealing with an execution.
Yes.
But that's really the reality.
And then let's take it to a different step. What about the victim's family at this point? We have rarely talked about the victim in this situation. We've been talking about Tony Carruthers and the execution, but not nearly as much about the victims themselves. And the victim's family is sitting in that room expecting to get closure today.
Yes, they're in a separate room
Yeah.
from the media and Tony Carruthers' family if they went there. It's like you can see them standing there.
But they obviously keep them separated.
They're totally separated. You can't get into either of the rooms easily. And they're sitting there wondering what's going to happen too.
Yes.
And it will be, I would like to know what they have to say about this. It would be very interesting because obviously their loved ones are gone.
Yes.
But this is something else, something at a different level.
And the questions we all have are the same questions they now have. What happens next? And who do we get those answers from about what's going to happen next at this point? Because the state has to figure out what they're trying to accomplish next.
The state will have to tell us what they're doing, and I can imagine that there has been some scrambling
Yes.
from the governor's office.
Yes. In what would have been a routine, I don't know if routine is the right word, in a normally scheduled execution. It's supposed to be routine.
It's a cold thing. You've got the warden standing there, and
let's not sugarcoat it. They practice. They go through these steps and they practice what this is going to look like.
They're supposed to.
Well, I guess in theory, right? And so as we continue to get updates.